What if I told you that the most magnificent lie ever painted, the most comforting deception ever sculpted, was the image of an angel? Close your eyes and picture one. You likely see a gentle figure with soft white wings, perhaps a human of impossible beauty, or even a chubby infantile baby floating on a cloud, a cherub from a Valentine's card. This image is a profound comfort. It is also a profound falsehood, a veil drawn over a reality so terrifying, so alien, that our ancestors may have deliberately replaced it with a harmless fiction. The truth is not gentle, the truth is not comforting. The truth has four faces, and it moves like lightning, encased in wheels full of eyes. The truth is a serpent made of living fire, whose very voice shakes the foundations of creation. We have been shown pictures of babies with wings, but the ancient texts describe the guardians of God's throne, the Cherubim and Seraphim, as beings of cosmic terror and incomprehensible power. Today, we pull back that veil. We will decode the sacred texts from Genesis to the visions of the prophets, and even venture into the forbidden knowledge of the Book of Enoch to reveal what these beings truly are. And in doing so, we will uncover a shocking new perspective on the nature of God, the universe, and the very fabric of reality itself. Prepare yourselves. What you are about to hear challenges everything you thought you knew about the heavens, about angels, and about the terrible, beautiful, and dangerous nature of the divine. This is the story of the true guardians, the terrifying gatekeepers of Eden and the living throne of God. Imagine you are the prophet Ezekiel standing by the river Chaba. The sky does not open with a gentle light. It rips apart. A whirlwind comes from the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. And out of the midst of that fire comes the likeness of four living creatures. Forget everything you know about biology, about the forms of life on earth. These beings have the likeness of a man, but each one has four faces and four wings. Their legs are straight, and the soles of their feet are like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkle like the color of burnished bronze. Under their wings on their four sides are the hands of a man. Their wings are joined one to another. They do not turn when they go, but everyone goes straight forward. Now, look at their faces. The face of a man in front, the face of a lion on the right side, the face of an ox on the left side, and the face of an eagle at the back. This is not a hybrid beast. This is a living nexus of all creation, a symbol of dominion over all life, the wild, the domesticated, the human, and the heavens. But the terror and wonder do not stop there. As Ezekiel, continue to watch, you see wheels on the earth beside the creatures, one for each of the four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work is like the color of beryl, a shimmering sea green. And all four have one likeness, as if a wheel had been in the midst of a wheel. When they go upon their four sides. They do not turn when they go. And their rims, their circumferences, are high and awesome, for the rims of all four are full of eyes all around. And when the living creatures go, the wheels go by them. When the creatures are lifted up from the earth, the wheels are lifted up. Wherever the spirit wants to go, they go, and the wheels are lifted up beside them. For the spirit of the living creature is in the wheels. What Ezekiel saw was not an angel. He saw a living machine, a biological and mechanical marvel that defies physics and perception. He saw a cherub, and this is the being tasked with guarding the holiest thresholds of existence. So I ask you again, why were we shown a baby with a bow and arrow? What was so fundamentally world-altering about Ezekiel's vision that it had to be suppressed, simplified, and replaced with a cartoon? The answer is simple and terrifying. The true form of the cherubim reveals that the divine realm is not a peaceful, ethereal paradise. It is a place of raw, unimaginable power, a dimension of such intensity that it requires guardians that are themselves forces of nature, living paradoxes of biology and technology, fire and spirit. They are not there to welcome you. They are there to ensure you never, ever cross the line. Their very form is a warning sign, a cosmic skull and crossbones that declares this territory is lethally sacred, Let us journey back to the very beginning, to the first recorded task of these incredible beings, to a garden and a tree, and a catastrophic failure of mankind. In the book of Genesis, after Adam and Eve have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they are cast out of the Garden of Eden. God's judgment is not just an eviction, it is a permanent quarantine. Genesis chapter 3, verse 24 states, "He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life." Let's dissect this. For within these few words lies a universe of terrifying implication. He placed the cherubim. The definite article that suggests this is not the first mention of them, that they are a known class of entity, a pre-existing celestial honor guard or special forces unit. They are not created for this task. They are assigned to it. They are the beings you call when you need to guard something of absolute cosmic importance. And what were they guarding? The way to the tree of life. Imagine the stakes. Mankind, now possessing knowledge of good and evil, a certain self-awareness and cunning, is also afflicted with mortality. What if this newly altered human, in his fallen state, were to gain access to the tree of life and eat its fruit? He would achieve immortality. He would live forever, but in a state of separation from God, a state of perpetual spiritual decay. It would lock in the tragedy, creating an eternal suffering creature. It would be hell made permanent on earth. So, the guarding of this tree was not a punishment, but a mercy. A terrible, fearsome mercy. And the instrument of this mercy was the cherubim. But they were not alone. The text says God also placed a flaming sword that turned every way. The Hebrew is even more strange. Lahat-ha, sherevha, mithatchet, which means the flame of the whirling sword, or the sword that turns itself. This is not a passive object being wielded by the cherubim. It is an active, autonomous weapon system. Many scholars now believe the sword and the cherubim are not two separate things, but a single, integrated unit. The flaming, whirling energy is an extension of the cherubim's own nature. Imagine if you were Adam or one of his descendants, driven by a desperate longing to return to reclaim paradise. You would journey back to the east of Eden. What would you see? You would not see a stoic, winged man holding a blade. You would see a vortex, a shimmering, heat-haze distortion in reality. As you drew closer, the form would resolve into something your mind can barely process, the four-faced creature of Ezekiel's nightmare, a being of burnished bronze and impossible angles. Its multiple eyes would track your every move simultaneously, and from its core, or perhaps all around it, would erupt this blade of pure fire, not just swinging but whirling, turning every way, creating an impenetrable sphere of annihilation. This is not a gate you can sneak past. It is not a guard you can fight. To approach it is to be unmade. The flame isn't just hot, it is holy fire. It doesn't just burn your flesh, it would annihilate your very essence, your soul. The cherub at Eden was the ultimate firewall between the sacred and the profane, between the divine blueprint of life and the newly corrupted code of mankind. Its very presence redefines the world. Outside the gate is the world we know, struggle, toil, death, and time. Inside the gate is eternity, divine energy, and a state of being we had lost. The cherub is the membrane between these two realities. This first appearance establishes the cherubim's primary role. They are guardians of sacred space and divine thresholds. They don't deliver messages. They don't sing songs of praise in this context. They are sentinels. They are living, terrifying border walls. Their job is to keep the unqualified out. And, as we will see, this is a role they will play again and again, most notably surrounding the very presence of God himself. On the Ark of the Covenant, a place so holy that it, too, was lethal to the unprepared. The cherub at Eden was just the first warning. It was the signpost that humanity was now in a different reality, a lower energy state, and that the way back to the heart of things was now guarded by beings of unimaginable terror and power. Now, let us turn our attention to the other class of celestial being that stands in the innermost circle, a being even more mysterious and, in its own way, just as terrifying as the cherubim. These are the seraphim, the burning ones. Our primary encounter with them comes from the staggering vision of the prophet Isaiah in the 6th chapter of his book. This is one of the most sublime and awe-inspiring passages in all of Scripture, and it is here that we come face to face with the attendants of the divine King. Isaiah says, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple." The scene is one of cosmic royalty. This is not a distant, abstract God. This is the King of the universe, holding court. And who are his courtiers? Who are the beings worthy to stand in his immediate presence? Above him stood the seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. Let us pause and absorb the weight of that description. 6 wings. This is not the simple functional pair of wings we see in popular art. This is a complex symbolic anatomy. With 2 wings, they cover their faces. Why? Because not even they, these beings of pure fire and holiness, can gaze directly upon the unveiled glory of God. To do so would be to be consumed. It is an act of profound reverence and self-preservation. With 2 wings, they cover their feet. In ancient Near Eastern culture, feet were considered unclean, associated with the dust of the earth. For these celestial beings to cover their feet in the presence of God is a symbol of ultimate humility, a recognition of the infinite distance between even the highest of created beings and the Creator himself. And with 2 wings, they fly. This is their function, their movement, their service. They are perpetually in motion, hovering, attending, ministering in the direct presence of the Almighty. And as they fly, they call to one another, their voices creating the very atmosphere of heaven. And one called to another and said, "Holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. This is not a gentle hymn. This is a cry so powerful, so resonant with truth, that it shakes the very architecture of the temple, the very foundations of the spiritual realm. The triple repetition, "Holy, holy, holy," the Sanctus, is the highest possible superlative. It declares God's holiness, his otherness, his separation from all creation as absolute and ultimate. It is a continual declaration of the fundamental nature of reality at its very source. But what exactly is a seraph? To understand this, we must perform a bit of forbidden archaeology on the word itself. The Hebrew root word is saraph. It means simply to burn. The seraphim are, literally, the burning ones. This is where the mystery deepens and takes a shocking turn. For this is not the only place in the Bible where the word saraph is used. What if I told you that the terrifying venomous serpents that attacked the Israelites in the desert were called by this very same name? In the Book of Numbers, chapter 21, the people of Israel sin against God, and the Lord sends fiery serpents among them. The Hebrew phrase is Hanekashim Hazaraphim, the seraph serpents. These burning snakes bite the people, and many die. It is a scene of terror and judgment. The people repent, and God gives Moses a strange instruction. Make a fiery serpent, a saraph, and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten, when he sees it, shall live. Moses creates a serpent of bronze, the Nehushtan, and lifts it up, and those who look upon it in faith are healed from the venom of the living seraphim. Pause and consider the staggering implication. The same word is used to describe the deadliest of enemies and the holiest of angels. How can this be? Is this a contradiction, or is it a clue to a deeper, more profound truth about the universe? What if saraph does not refer to a specific form, like a snake or a winged man, but to a specific type of energy? A burning or fiery essence, a raw primal force. In its wild, untamed state, separated from the will of God, this energy is chaotic and destructive. It is the venomous, fiery serpent that brings death. But when that same energy is sanctified, controlled, and brought into perfect alignment with the will of God, it becomes a seraph, a holy, burning one who serves at the throne of the Almighty. This force, this fire, is neutral in itself. Its effect, whether creative or destructive, depends entirely on its relationship to the divine source. The bronze serpent on the pole was not an idol. It was a symbol of this very principle. It was the image of the destructive force, transfigured by faith and obedience into an instrument of salvation. The people had to look upon the very thing that was killing them, now rendered harmless and raised up as a sign of God's power to heal. This duality is the secret of the seraphim. They are beings of pure, holy fire. When Isaiah is overwhelmed by his own unworthiness, crying out, "Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips," one of the seraphim acts. But it does not offer gentle words. It flies to the altar, takes a burning coal with tongues, because even a seraph cannot touch this raw holiness directly, and touches it to Isaiah's lips. "Behold," the seraph says, "this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for." Isaiah is purified by fire. He is touched by the very essence of the seraphim's nature, a controlled, holy, burning energy from the altar of God. He undergoes a trial by fire and survives, made new and fit for his prophetic mission. The seraphim, then, are not just singers. They are living conduits of divine purifying energy. Their song is a vibrational shield. Their touch is a refining fire. They are the personification of the active, cleansing, and terrifyingly potent holiness of God. They are not serpents, but the holy archetype of which the fiery serpent is the fallen, chaotic shadow. To stand before them is to stand before a living nuclear reactor of holiness, a being whose very nature is to burn away all that is impure. Their existence confirms that approaching God is not a casual act. It is a dangerous and transformative encounter that requires mediation by these incredible fiery beings. Having explored the guardians of the gate and the attendants of the throne, we now return to the cherubim for their most complex and mind-bending depiction is yet to come. It is in the vision of Ezekiel that we move beyond their role as static sentinels and see them as something far more dynamic, more central to the very movement and manifestation of God's glory. We see them as the components of a celestial vehicle, a divine chariot, known in Jewish mysticism as the Merkabah. This is not just theology, it is a description of a technology, a spiritual physics that is utterly alien to our understanding. Let us go back to Ezekiel's vision by the river Chebar, after describing the four living creatures, the cherubim, and the wheels within wheels full of eyes. He looks up. Over the heads of the living creatures there was the likeness of an expanse, shining like ore, inspiring crystals spread out above their heads, and under the expanse their wings were stretched out straight, one toward another. And each creature had two wings covering its body. And when they went, I heard the sound of their wings like the sound of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty, a tumult like the sound of an army. The sensory detail is overwhelming. This is not a silent, ghostly apparition. It is loud. It sounds like a rushing flood, like the voice of God himself, like an advancing army. It is an event of immense power and acoustic force. The cherubim are not flapping their wings like birds. The sound is a byproduct of their motion, a sonic boom that rips through the spiritual dimension. Above this chaos, there is order, a crystal platform, a firmament, separating the creatures from what lies above. And what lies above is the ultimate destination. And above the expanse over their heads, there was the likeness of a throne, in appearance like sapphire, and seated above the likeness of a throne was a likeness with a human appearance. Here, the vision culminates. At the apex of this impossible structure of fire, wheels, and living creatures, rests the throne of God, beautiful and serene, like a deep blue sapphire. And on the throne a form radiant and glorious, described as a man, yet composed of glowing fire and brilliant light from the waist up and the waist down. The cherubim are not merely near the throne, they are its foundation, they are its engine. They uphold it and move it. The text is explicit. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved beside them, and when the living creatures rose from the earth, the wheels rose. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, they went. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. What does this mean? It means the throne of God is not a fixed object in a specific location called heaven. It is a mobile unit of immense power. It is a chariot, a vehicle that can traverse the cosmos and manifest in different realities, including our own. The cherubim are the living engine of this chariot. They are not pulling it like horses. They are intrinsically part of it. The Spirit, the will of the one on the throne, drives them, and they move in perfect, instantaneous unison. They go straight forward, without turning. This suggests a mode of travel that does not conform to our three-dimensional navigation. They don't need to turn because they can move in any direction at will instantly. They exist and move in a higher dimension. This vision of the Merkabah became the foundation of an entire school of Jewish mysticism. To gaze upon the chariot, even in a vision, was considered the most profound and dangerous spiritual experience a person could have. It was to witness the very machinery of divine manifestation. Now, let us connect this cosmic vision to an earthly object of immense holiness and danger, the Ark of the Covenant. After the Exodus from Egypt, God commands Moses to build a tabernacle, a portable temple. The most sacred object within it is the Ark, a golden chest containing the tablets of the law, a jar of manna, and Aaron's staff that had budded. It is the physical repository of God's covenant with Israel. And what did God command be placed on top of the ark, on the lid known as the mercy seat? You shall make 2 cherubim of gold, of hammered work shall you make them, on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. These golden cherubim were to face each other, their wings spread upward, overshadowing the mercy seat. And God tells Moses why. There I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony, I will speak with you. The Ark of the Covenant was a physical replica, a miniature model, of the heavenly throne chariot. The space between the 2 golden cherubim was the designated point of contact, the focal point where the infinite, uncontained presence of God would localize and become immanent enough to speak to a human. The cherubim imagery serves as the signature, the brand, the warning label for this point of contact. Where you see the cherubim, you are dealing with the raw, localized power of the divine presence, and this power was lethally dangerous. When the Philistines captured the ark, it brought plagues upon them wherever it went. When the Israelites were bringing it to Jerusalem, the oxen stumbled, and a man named Uzzah reached out to steady it. The instant his hand touched the ark, the power of God struck him dead. Uzzah wasn't malicious, he was trying to help. But he crossed a sacred boundary. He touched the terminal of a divine power source without authorization and without preparation. He was instantly electrocuted by holiness. The cherubim on the ark, just like their celestial counterparts in Ezekiel's vision, signify this incredible, dangerous power. They are the guardians of the throne, whether it is the cosmic mobile throne in the heavens or its physical embassy on earth. They are the seal of the king, the symbol that this is not common ground. To see the cherubim is to know you are at the very precipice of reality, at the border of a power that can create worlds or annihilate a person in an instant. They are not decorative angels, they are the living components of God's interface with creation, the very bearers of His glory, and the fearsome guardians of His presence. Our journey so far has been confined to the texts of the canonical Bible, the books that were voted in by councils and committees centuries after they were written. But what if there are other texts, other ancient accounts, that were intentionally left out, deemed too strange, too revealing, or too dangerous for the faithful? To truly understand the terrifying grandeur of these celestial beings, we must now venture into the forbidden library, into the apocryphal and pseudepigraphical works, most notably the legendary Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Hebrew text, quoted in the New Testament Book of Jude, and highly revered by many early Christians and Jews. It was later suppressed and excluded from most versions of the biblical canon, only to be rediscovered in its entirety in Ethiopia in the 18th century. The book purports to be the account of Enoch, the man who walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. It describes his journeys through the heavens, a guided tour of the cosmos and the spiritual hierarchy. And his descriptions of the cherubim and seraphim corroborate and even expand upon the visions of Isaiah and Ezekiel with visceral, first-hand terror. Enoch describes being led by holy angels through the seven heavens. As he approaches the seventh and highest heaven, the dwelling place of God, the reality becomes almost unbearable. He describes passing through a wall of fire, then another. He sees a house built of crystal, with a ceiling of stars and lightning, and within this house he encounters the guardians. Listen to his words from a translation of the text. I saw a mighty throne. Its appearance was like crystal, and its wheels like the shining sun, and there was the vision of cherubim. And from underneath the mighty throne came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat thereon, and his raiment was brighter than the sun and whiter than any snow. Enoch's account mirrors Ezekiel's perfectly, the throne, the wheels, the cherubim, the fire. But as a supposed eyewitness, he adds a layer of personal experience. He states plainly, I could not look. The sheer intensity of the scene is too much for a mortal mind and body to handle. He then goes on to describe the beings surrounding the throne, confirming Isaiah's vision, but adding more detail to the celestial choir. And I saw 10,000 times 10,000, and 1,000 standing before the Lord of Spirits. And on the four sides of the Lord of Spirits I saw four presences, different from those that sleep not. They were the seraphim, the cherubim, and the ophanim, the wheels from Ezekiel's vision. And these are they who sleep not, but guard the throne of his glory. The phrase, they who sleep not, is crucial. It emphasizes their eternal, unceasing vigilance. They are not mortal, they do not tire. They are perpetual, conscious forces dedicated to a single task, guarding the throne. Enoch's testimony adds a critical layer to our investigation. It serves as an independent, ancient witness that corroborates the more famous prophetic visions. The consistency is stunning. Across centuries, from different authors, Ezekiel the priest in Babylonian exile, Isaiah the prophet in Jerusalem, and the author of the Enochian texts, the description of these highest-ranking celestial beings remains fundamentally the same. They are composite creatures of immense power, associated with fire, impossible geometry, and sleepless, terrifying guardianship of God's throne. So this begs the critical question, why was the Book of Enoch, and others like it, excluded? The official reasons are complex, dealing with questions of authorship and dating. But what if there was another reason, a more theological and political one? What if the early church fathers, in their efforts to create a unified, accessible, and controllable doctrine, found these texts to be problematic? The cosmology of Enoch is wild, complex, and filled with strange, powerful beings. It paints a picture of a universe far more populated and far more dangerous than the simplified model that became mainstream Christianity. The god of the Merkabah, the god who travels in a chariot of living creatures and wheels full of eyes, is a far cry from the gentle, bearded old man in the sky. He is a being of immense, almost industrial power. A cosmic king whose court is staffed by entities that would drive a modern man mad. Perhaps this vision of reality was deemed too much, too pagan, too mystical, too hard to explain, and too difficult to package for mass consumption. It was easier to focus on a message of love and salvation and to downplay the terrifying majesty, the raw power, the fear of the Lord. That is the beginning of wisdom. It was easier to transform the four-faced cherub into a chubby baby and the fiery six-winged seraph into a graceful, human-like singer. By excluding texts like Enoch, the gatekeepers of doctrine may have performed their own act of guardianship, shielding the masses from a truth they felt was too potent, too paradigm-shattering. But in doing so, they robbed us of a fuller, more awesome, and perhaps more accurate picture of the cosmos. They drew a veil, and it is only by exploring these forbidden texts that we can begin to peek behind it, to see the sleepless, fiery guardians for what they truly are. We have traveled from the gates of Eden to the throne room of the cosmos. We have sifted through the visions of the prophets and dared to open the pages of forbidden books. We began by shattering the comforting lie of the baby-faced angel, and in its place we have reconstructed a vision from the ancient scriptures, a vision of terrifying, awesome, and magnificent beings. The cherubim, not chubby infants, but four-faced, multi-winged living machines, the guardians of sacred thresholds and the very engine of God's mobile throne. Their form is a composite of all creation, and their movement defies our physics. They are the living firewalls between the holy and the profane, their presence a lethal warning of the power they protect. They are the bearers of the Merkabah, the chariot of God, a concept so profound it birthed an entire school of dangerous mysticism. The seraphim, not gentle singers, but burning ones, six-winged beings of pure, holy fire who surround the Almighty. Their name connects them to the fiery serpents of judgment, revealing a deep truth about cosmic energy, that it can be both destructive and creative, its nature defined by its relationship to the divine will. Their song shakes the foundations of reality, and their touch purifies with a refining fire, making the unworthy worthy to stand in the presence of God. So what does this all mean for us now, in our modern world? What is the takeaway from this journey into the heart of ancient celestial terror? The true forms of the cherubim and seraphim are not just interesting pieces of biblical trivia. They are a profound theological statement. They are a cosmic object lesson. Their existence and their terrifying appearance teach us that we have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the spiritual realm. We have sanitized it. We have made it safe, comfortable, and human-centric. The reality described in these ancient texts is anything but. The divine realm is a place of power so immense, of holiness so absolute, that it is inherently dangerous to unprotected mortal life. It is more akin to the heart of a star or the event horizon of a black hole than a gentle, cloudy paradise. God's unfiltered presence is not something to be approached casually. It requires mediation. It requires shielding. And that is the ultimate purpose of the cherubim and seraphim. They are that shield. They are the buffer zone, the living transformers that step down an infinite power into a form that creation can barely withstand. Their terror is a function of their love, a necessary protection for the fragile reality that exists outside the throne room. To understand them is to cultivate a sense of awe, of what the Bible calls the fear of the Lord. Not a servile, cowering fear, but a profound, overwhelming respect for the sheer scale and power of the Creator. It is to understand that we are not the center of the universe, and that there are levels of reality and forms of life that beggar our imagination. Our journey to decode these beings shatters our comfortable anthropocentrism. It forces us to look up at a cosmos that is grander, more complex, and infinitely more mysterious than we have allowed ourselves to believe. The lie of the baby angel was a comfortable one, but it kept us in a spiritual nursery. The truth of the four-faced guardian and the fiery serpent, while terrifying, invites us into a more mature, more honest, and more awesome understanding of the universe. And so, we are left with a final, lingering question, a thought that should echo in your mind long after this journey ends. If these beings, these magnificent, terrifying creatures of fire and eyes and lightning, are merely the servants, the attendants, the guardians of the throne, what does that imply about the nature, the power, and the glory of the one they guard? The true mystery does not end with the cherubim and seraphim. That is merely where it begins.